Hi, I'm Liz with Liz's Crafts, and today, look, falling for fall, golden leaves, warm memories, and acorns. So I'm going to show you how to make this acorn paperweight, and I am using Let's Resin 2-part epoxy resin. This is part B, and I'm going to use 1.5 ounces of part B and 1.5 ounces of part A. So I'm mixing up 3 ounces of epoxy resin. And then I'm just going to mix it up by hand with my stir stick there for 4 minutes. And now I am going to get out my mold. Now I got this mold from Ollie's. And it's actually a candle mold, and that hole in the bottom there is where you would put your wick through it. Now you can't tape this, you can't put glue on it, you can't put resin on it. So I broke off a little piece of a toothpick and I put that down in it, and I'm hoping that it is not going to leak. And I made sure not to go, not to make it poke on the inside. And then I'm just going to use this piece of cardboard, and what it is, it's off of ribbon. So I just took the 2 ends of the pieces that hold the ribbon on the cardboard off, and this is what you have left. And I'm just going to pour a little bit of my resin in my mold, and I was just checking it to make sure that it wasn't leaking, and it wasn't. So the toothpick trick did the job. And now I have my acorns. Now I did go over to the neighbor's house and picked up these acorns from her driveway and her front yard. And actually I'm going to give this paperweight to her. But I tried to get the acorns that had the caps and the actual nut together. Or if it was a double, at least one of them had a nut in it. So these were all the ones I could find. You know, it's really hard to find them intact. You either find the tops or you find the bottoms. And yeah, I had to search and search and search for these acorns. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up my mold about 3/4 of the way full. And then I am going to put this in my de-bubble machine. And I have one of those from Let's Resin. And I am going to pour the rest of my resin in my mold. And then I have a few more acorns to put in there. So I'm just going to put those in there. And then I'm just going to use my popsicle stick to make sure all my acorns are submerged in the epoxy resin. Now I did have to mix up more resin. The 3 ounces was not enough. So I think I mixed up 40 milliliters more and had extra. So I'm just, man, I can't talk. I'm just slowly pouring the resin in my mold to fill it up. And of course your acorns are gonna, you know, kind of float up to the top of the mold here. But that's okay. You see that silicone cup, measuring cup there? I do put that on top of it after I fill it up. And it does kind of keep them down in the mold. And then I'm just going to take my little lighter there, and I am going to pop any bubbles that have come to the surface. I think my lighter's just about out of butane. Had to get my husband to fill it back up. These little lighters, I mean, I like them, but they just don't last very long. Good thing is they are refillable. And I'm just taking my toothpick and I'm pushing down my acorns, trying to get them underneath the, or submerged into the resin. And then again, using my lighter to pop any bubbles. And this is where I take my container there, my measuring container, and I put it on the top of my mold to keep those acorns from rising above my mold. And here I took the toothpick out of the hole and I'm demolding. And this is what it looks like. Now, it's not shiny or anything like that. I was kind of disappointed with that. I didn't realize that it was not going to be shiny. So I have to clean up the bottom too. And then the very top where the toothpick was, there is a little knot there, a little, you know, a little thing sticking up. So I am taking my fingernail file and filing that down. It wasn't too bad. Now what I did was I took my paperweight, and that's my UV resin from Amazon, and I did use my not my sanding machine, my husband's sanding machine, and I sanded down the bottom, and that left some of the acorn tops poking through, and they didn't have resin in them, so I had to fill them with some UV resin, and then I just put them under my UV light. And now what I'm going to do is go ahead and cover the whole bottom with my UV resin. Now what I should have done before I added this layer UV resin, I should have taken my paperweight back to the sanding machine and sanded down two of the spaces where my UV resin, it was too much and it was kind of poking out. I didn't do that. So there are two kind of poking out spots on the bottom of my paperweight, and I just left them. I mean, I could go ahead and take it back to the sander and then put some more UV resin on it, but I decided just to leave it. I don't think my neighbor's going to care too much. So I was just popping the bubbles with my lighter, and then I decided to need a little bit more UV resin on there. And then pop some more bubbles. Would you see that smoking? It was smoking. And then just leveling it out with my craft stick. And then I'm going to put it under my UV light. Now I just hold my light because this is pretty tall, and the feet on my UV light are shorter. So I was just holding my light. And I was just checking it with my toothpick to make sure that it was cured, and it was. So you can see those two spots right there where the UV resin is kind of poking out a little bit. So anyway, I'm just going to continue on, and what I do is take my UV resin and go around the outer edge of my paperweight there, and then I'm just going to use my finger to kind of pounce the UV resin, you know, just trying to even it out. I want to shine up my paperweight. I don't want it to be dull. So you want to make sure when you're putting your UV resin on there, if it starts to run, you need to go ahead and pat it with your finger, so you catch it before it runs down, because you don't want to cure it with it like that. And so I'm just going to go ahead and cure this for about a minute, I guess. And then too, I was like, well, you know, I can go around it with my little UV light there. I don't know if it helped. I guess it maybe did. And now I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to start working on the other side. So from the top of it, the very top where the toothpick was, I'm just going to kind of swirl my UV resin on there and then pat it with my finger. I was kind of wondering how am I going to get all this UV resin on here with and make it still look good. I mean, there are some spots on it that don't look all that great, but you know what? I don't think my neighbor is going to care too much. I think she'll like it. So don't forget, you can always find things out in nature that you can use in your UV resin. If you have one of those trees that have those little tiny pine cones on them, that would be really good to put in resin. Which I have some of those little pine cones. I got it from my sister-in-law's house. She has one of those trees. So I might have to do that. Maybe that'll be my next project. I'm not sure. So I'm, you know, just turning it with my hand and then patting it with my finger and then trying to cure it with my light. I really had to use my light a lot for this piece. And then even towards the end, it seemed a little bit sticky. But I'll tell you what I did about that a little further into the video. But you can see, so I'm, you know, putting my light there, leaving it for a little bit, and then turning it to a different angle, leaving it, and then turning it and all that. So I do that for quite a while, actually. And see there, I'm touching it. I'm like, you know, it's still a little bit sticky. So I'm going to cure it some more. And there I'm using the handheld UV light and the other one at the same time. So then after I did all that, I decided, you know what, I'm going to clean this with some alcohol. And then what I did was I took it in there and I cleaned it with some soap. But here it is. It's outside on that old log that I take my pictures with. You have to let me know what you think about this. Again, I'm Liz with Liz's Crafts, and if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. And I'd like to know what you think about this craft. Do you like it? Do you want me to do some more?